Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Royal Sussex Live. Welcome, one and all. Happy Monday to you. Also, happy. Oh, let me get the microphone over here. Okay, that's probably better. And happy Black History Month, right? And it's some other holiday. I can't really think of which one it is, but there's some other holiday today. Connie Balmer! Connie Balmer is first today. Sonia Alexander, Manello, Darlene Cotton, Ann Fu, uh, Sheila C, Foxy. Okay. Let me see here. Fancy seeing you here. Sharon Chung. And oh, thank you so much for the very first super sticker. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Oh, and you're a member as well. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a member of Royal Sussex. Uh, oh boy, I tell you, I'm still a kid at heart. Um, Let me see. I'm opening up another screen so I can see what you all are seeing.
Boy, I tell you, I'm
Oh,
still
let
a
me
kid at
take
heart.
that echo away. And okay, I think I'm good now. All right. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Hello, my Royal Sussex family, Mod Squad, and Baron. Oh, why don't I do that? Happy Monday to you all. Well, thank you so much, Georgia Walker. Uh, Kim Peaches, I think I said hi. Deirdre Monkey, hello. Kids Indoor, VC. Phyllis Johnson, hi. Carolyn Soares. Lambert Charles, living in paradise right now. Thank you so much. I'm so jealous of everybody who lives in these beautiful places and me living in the old Midwestern Rust Belt. How do I manage? I don't know. It's what I'm used to. I feel like a polar bear. I was born on the ice. It's where I'm most comfortable. Let's see here. Who else is here? Uh, okay. Oh, Sharon Augustine. Hello, Foxy. Oh, all right. Oh, thank you so much, Charles. I'm sorry, Lambert Charles. I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much. Veronica Quick. Let me see. Oh, Lydia Washington. Thank you so much. Who else is here? Okay. I'm just going to. Oh, Nafisa Shabazz. Hello. Janice Goodrich. Maureen Reed. Madison Bonaparte. Hello. Darlene Williams. Okay, I'm going to do some scrolling here. I'm going to pass up a few people, but hello to one and all. Thank you all so much for being here. Oh, I can't pass this up. Foxy Gibbs, thank you so much for the super sticker, and thank you so much for watching Royal Sussex. All right, I'm going to go all the way to the end, see who was here last. Oh, Sister and Cece, we got to help you say hello. Okay, Mackenzie, B10 Pow. Okay, I better get going because I got a lot of stuff to cover today. But again, it is Black History Month. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. I am somebody. I am somebody. I got one of those old vintage Black is Beautiful buttons. Um, I tell you, one of these days, I am going to put some of this stuff on eBay. I feel like the rooms are closing in on me. All these years of collecting, God knows what. And I should put it out there so other people can enjoy it. Although my newer acquisitions, I'm enjoying a whole lot. Like that colorful cube that someone sent me, I'm using that as a paperweight. And every time I look at it, I smile. Madison Bonaparte, thank you so much for the super sticker. And thank you, as always, for watching Royal Sussex. Happy Monday to you. Okay, let's get this party started. Happy President's Day. That's the other day I couldn't remember. As he said, nobody F's with Joe Biden. Joe Biden wants to go to a war zone to hang out with somebody who has not actually apologized for the mistreatment of the Africans that were studying and living in their country. Okay, let's hope he gets around to it because I rather like the little guy and I don't want to be at odds with somebody, especially while they're at war. I don't like kicking people when they're down. So I hope I hope that we will get around to that. But otherwise, while there, my president is giving out my taxpayer dollars. Wait a minute, how am I helping him, huh? But I'm just saying, while he's there, my president is giving out our taxpayer dollars. What? I have a dental appointment? Oh, that's on the 14th. Okay, that's who's texting me. All right. I better hurry up and get there while I still got a couple of teeth left. At this rate, I'm going to end up getting a job down at a donut factory. Somebody's got to snap the holes in them. Okay, let's move on here. So, yes, I just saw that. So, John Newbold said, hi, all. Dr. Shola has had a letter from a white supremacy group threatening to harm her and her family. They called her the N-word, a primate, and other vile things. I'm trying not to get, lose my monetization. Welcome to the non-racist UK sickening. So if you can see up there at the top, we do have to start off on this because this was something that really upset Dr. Shola. It upsets me. I know it upsets all of you. This is one of those things that you just cannot ignore because there are some really, really sick individuals out there, and you just don't want to take your chances, especially when there's family involved. So Dr. Shola says, I have received a serious threat from the National Action London notifying me of their intention to kill me. Okay, I said it. To kill me. Me and my family, they named my husband and home address. They don't consider killing me murder. They call it, and oh gosh, I don't want to say that word. This letter was through my front door. So I do apologize for that, but you guys, the least little thing can cause problems. So I have to be careful which words I choose. And I'm kind of editing in my head as I go along. So again, I do apologize for that. But this is very upsetting. Dr. Shola has been a real champion of causes for women, Black people everywhere in the world, anybody everywhere in the world. She even stood up for the plight of the children of the Cambridges when they made a parody about Prince George. So she doesn't pick and choose. God, that really upsets me. But Dr. Shola has constantly been on the side of the righteous and, of course, has a very strong sense of fair play. And that something like this could, actually happen. And it's so personal that, there it is at her home address through the mailbox, through the letterbox. So, yeah, we are all very upset. And I hope that everybody will keep Dr. Shola and family in prayer because this is very serious. This is certainly not a game. As Harry said so many times, that this is not a game. And they are very serious. And there are some people out there who feel like if they can just silence Dr. Shola, I sent a photo of it was a poster that I saw while I was on vacation, and I sent it to someone from Brazil because I was like, oh, look, that's from Brazil. Now, all that time I had it, I'm just going through photos and I'm just like, who is this lady? Well, apparently, like Dr. Shola, she was considered a fair target because of her speaking out for racism. So it's a very serious thing. It's a very serious thing. And all that time, I guess, I don't know why I didn't Google, but all that time I had this image of this woman, and I had no idea that she was an activist that someone had gone after, and she's no longer here to fight the fight. She will never be available to fight that fight anymore. So this is very, very upsetting. Very upsetting. And oh man. So, I hope the Met Police or whoever, I hope whoever investigates something like this, I hope they will, do the right thing, do what's necessary and appropriate to bring these people to justice. Don't just ignore this. Don't just sweep this under the rug. It's a very turbulent time in all of the Western world. There is a cultural war going on, and unfortunately, our faves are stuck in the middle of it. And along with that, you have someone who, should be free to speak her voice, Dr. Shola, being targeted by people who would rather she was not able to speak her truth, to speak up for other people. So yeah, this is very upsetting. So again, just please keep Dr. Shola and her family in your prayers, and let's hope that nothing terrible happens. And yeah, and I've seen images of Dr. Shola out and about that she would post on occasion. Okay, I found it. Let me see, Marielle Franco, and that was the woman that and I'm looking at it now. I'm sorry I can't share this with you guys right now, but I'm looking at it. Well, I guess I could if I wanted to. And it says Assassini le 14 Mars 2018, Rio de Janeiro. I didn't I I'd never translated it. And so I'm just like, wow. And I've had this photo since April 19th, 2018. I've only just shared it with someone from Brazil maybe months ago. And then it became a very haunting um, thing for me to think about it, that this woman fighting for the rights of other people um, is no longer here. It's no longer here. That's why we can't take these threats for granted. We can't take our rights for granted. We should never look the other way. It's not just somebody else's problem. It's all of our concerns, especially um, when you consider that um, they're trying to make life better for us. They're trying to make life better for other people. It would be easier to take your education and your knowledge to some boardroom somewhere or to some company or something like that. But instead, some people, like Barack Obama, very fine education. He could have done a lot of things. He could have, actually, Michelle Obama, they could have both made a life for themselves in the corporate world, but they chose to, you know, devote their lives to public service. And I hope things like this won't discourage people from devoting their lives to public service. There you have it. If you guys can take a look at your screens right now, I didn't realize that this activist was murdered. I had no idea. I was just I take pictures of everything, and it just seemed like an interesting photo. And I regret that I didn't look into it sooner. But Marielle Franco, um, let me see, was a Brazilian politician, sociologist, feminist, socialist, and human rights activist. I mean, that sounds like Dr. Shola's resume, doesn't it? After earning a master's degree in public administration from the Fluminense Federal University, she served as a city councilor of the Municipal Chamber of Rio de Janeiro for the Socialism and Liberty Party. Died in 2017, I believe it was. Oh no, she until her death in 2017. Well, it says 2018, but yeah. So let's I believe at one time there's like a live song, that song that Nina Simone sang when Dr. King was assassinated. And she did a little, I guess, improvisation in the middle of the song. And she says that the people that we know and we love and that are, an inspiration for us, we have to keep them close. We have to keep them close. In other words, we have to keep an eye on them. So let's make sure that nothing like this happens to the people that's trying to make life better for us. Um, we really, really have to be proactive about that stuff. So, anyway, thank you so much, you guys, for hearing me out with that. But I'm very, very bothered by this. Manello, thank you so much for becoming a new member of Royal Sussex, and thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate you being here, and thank you for becoming a member. Miss P Talk says, let's pray for her and her family. I hope she reported it to the police. This is orchestrated by the media, allegedly. I have to say that, but I get you, Miss P Talks, because a lot of people, as we found through the Sussex Squad Detective Agency, there's a lot of people that interact, or not people, I don't call royal reporters people, but there are some royal reporters that have interacted with some pretty, way out people, some very disturbed people. As I just discovered, a couple weeks ago when I looked into that one reporter's Twitter account, and she, I have to qualify this by saying she wasn't actually guilty of anything that I've noticed, but the people that followed her had all of those talking points of hate against Meghan and, of course, her family. So you can't underestimate crazy. You really cannot underestimate them. You have to keep an eye on people like that. Let's see, Baron, we can't help but blame the vile and vulgar Jeremy Clarkson, along with his bestie Tampon Camille. The alleged royals is to be blamed too. And thank you, Anfu, for saying alleged, because in spite of our suspicions, we're not allowed to say we know anything for sure when anything as serious as that. So thank you for that. Mackenzie says, after what happened to Paul Pelosi, this stuff needs to be taken seriously by the government. It would also get a live, what is that, live? I'm sorry, get a live-in police dog. Yeah. Thank you. Shelly L says, well, someone needs to tell her, to tell them to go on and bring the BS over here. That's why I like you. We have the right ones waiting for them. I'm tired of going high. Shelly L, being tired of going high, I suspect that's why you're here. Because Royal Sussex kind of gets down into the gutter with them verbally. Um, But thank you so much for saying that. You just made me feel a whole lot better. And also thank you for the super chat. You always know what to say. Marshall says, Bear, and hopefully Dr. Shola can team up with Reverend Sharpton somehow. It seems she's the only Black Brit who speaks out against racism. Where are the rest of the Black activists there? They need an NAACP. Well, from the outside looking in, I know it seems like there's not enough of this or not enough of that. And I can't really say one way or the other because, we're over here and our perspective of exactly um, what type of movements are going on is vastly different. But as Americans, we have a fine tradition of activism. Everything from the Chicago Defender newspaper, which could, get you hurt very bad in the South if they found out you had one. That was one of the several newspapers and probably the most prestigious, in the Jim Crow era. And they were a very powerful voice. And it was a way to communicate from one Black community to the other. But it was very dangerous if it was found out. And so, there have been race riots in the UK on several occasions. There have been people who have spoken out and have organized. So I don't want to, insult someone else's efforts without all of the information. But it's just with our frustration, whatever has or has not been done, it never seems like it's enough. It's just like I was speaking about the town of Ferguson the other day. How could you have a town with a Black majority and yet you have the Black majority living in constant fear, getting in before it gets dark? And you have some, pardon my words, some token Black representation. Maybe it was one or two in the city hall or whatever, maybe one. And I'm just like, you should be the mayor. You should be the executive in these branches of government. But instead, that one lone individual had to represent the entire community. So there wasn't much representation there. This was a town, Ferguson was a town with a Black majority. They were the only ones getting the traffic violations. They were the only ones being chased by the police. It shouldn't have been that way. So, as much as I would love to not love, but as much as I would feel, good God, let me get that off of there. As much as I would, want to criticize people in Black people in Britain for not doing enough, there's enough Black people here that don't do enough. We have plenty places where they're not doing enough, where we have Black people selling out their communities. So I don't want to point fingers. I don't think that that's helpful, but it is something that should be taken into account. You're absolutely right, Marshar. You can never have enough. If I can just add to what you said, you can never have enough. So thank you for your comment. But yeah, this is a very frustrating thing, and it really taxes your nerves to consider that something as vile and vicious as this can still be a thing in modern times, but it can be, and it is. And the the consequences for Dr. Shola and her family can be devastating. So I hope that they're, like sometimes here in the United States, sometimes the people that even a lot of Black people, especially Christian Black people, but not, not so often though. I have to say, not so often, but sometimes we kind of dismiss the Nation of Islam, but they have, actually stepped forward to defend other Black people, even if they're not Muslim or if they're not members of the Nation of Islam. The letter says, "This is a national action London sale. We are watching you. Shola, you are a constant troublemaker and liar who appears on television frequently. You make a shabby living from criticizing, um, and I'm sorry, yeah, criticizing and race grifting against ethnic white Europeans and our culture. We have placed you on our kill list, and in and intent to kill. I mean, intent that is to kill you, your children, and your husband." And she scratched out the name there. "You have gone too far, and it's now time for you to pay the price. You are a filthy, ugly, troublemaking N word. You look like a gorilla and probably smell just like one. What is that thing on your head? It looks like a turd, a big lump of crap. We are looking forward to seeing." Okay, I've had enough. But yeah, so I know the letter is not clear enough for some of you guys to see, or maybe you can, but anyway, I've had enough of that. But it's awful. It's ugly. It's filthy. It's grotesque, and it represents the worst of humanity. But it doesn't represent everyone in Britain. It certainly does not represent everyone in Britain. Just as they say, a few bad apples can rot the whole barrel. And when you have a barrel full of apples, unfortunately, there's going to be one that has started to break down, and then it's going to ruin some other apples. But the good thing is, you can salvage what's left and build upon that. So let's hope that's the case. Let's hope this is something that that will be a wake up call to the rest of society that has been very casual about their support, if not completely non-existent with their support for people that are othered in the community. Baron, I've seen a recent article about Africans in Ukraine still taking flack in that country. Even some Ukrainians moved to the UK and are complaining about. Yeah, we talked about that yesterday, Hope's Garden, and it is disgusting. And of course, even it's nothing different than what happens in China. It's nothing. See, one of the biggest exports. Let's be honest here. One of the biggest exports from the British Empire, from the colonial colonizing British Empire, one of the biggest exports has been racism. And so many countries, excuse me, have laws in place that are laws that would have not exist but for the fact that the British Empire were the ones who um, actually gave them the template to write the laws. And once the British were gone, they used that template to create their own caste system, their own system of aristocracy, their own favorites in society. And so when I say something like, find me a black billionaire in Britain that was born there, you can't. But you can find them that come from the remnants of the, colonies. You can find them in the Commonwealth countries, and hopefully some that have, made their wealth without the old Commonwealth, laws and caste system. But yeah, so, oh man, Marshar, I'm thinking that this is one of those Karens. Pardon me, anybody named Karen, but this is one of those old lonely Karens with a house full of cats. But we can't take our chances on trying to figure out who wrote this for the sake of identifying a hunch, but we have to figure out who wrote this to make sure that Shola and her family is secure. But it does look like a half-wit wrote it, and someone who has had a lifetime of sponging up all the racial tropes and epitaphs that they could pick up. And, and this is what's filed away in their brain cells is how can I rid this nation of anyone that doesn't look like me, even though, as I just said, the remnants of empire. It's incredible the way people that are so anti-others, that are so anti-black, so anti-Asian, so anti-anybody. It's amazing how people are so anti all these people that were once colonized, conquered, colonized by the same government that's in place. Well, the same government that's in place now. Um, and you don't want those people over here. But I have to wonder, did anybody give consider? Well, I don't have to wonder. I already know the answer. Nobody gave consideration to the people who didn't want them over there. They didn't have a choice. They did not have a choice. There, the empire was pushed and thrust upon them, right? And they didn't have a choice. It was either become a Christian, don't get too educated, do our bidding. But actually, let me take that back. They will find a sector of the population to use as a puppet. They will educate a few, but they have to prove that they will be in service of the crown. And then you can thrive while the rest of your countrymen and women, die from the oppression. So very serious topics, and it is going to be what really comes forward during the coronation. Is people are going to have discussions just like we're having right now. So anyway, you guys, this is something that we will hear more about in the coming days, I hope. And I hope that they find this person and that this person will be brought to justice and will become an example to anyone else who would say or do anything like this. So, okay, I'm going to move on. Thank you so much for your comments, guys. Remember to pray, try to stay optimistic. At least we know the mentality of these people. At least they made their presence known. This person or people, at least they made their presence known, and and I have faith that some right-minded, right-thinking people will take it from there. Okay, so Donatella Limon is French. Donatella Limon. Don Lemon, until further notice, I suppose, will not be on that morning show. Now, if something changed this afternoon, I didn't hear about it, but apparently somebody has foot and mouth disease. Someone who's been around a bit long, and despite his appearance is getting a bit long of tooth, has said too much, done too much, and have been, caught out. I still say Don Lemon has a problem with women. I don't care, what color the women are. That's not important. Everybody deserves their basic human rights and respect. And until we know better, I don't know that there's any way to justify the exchanges that he's been having with his highfalutin ego. But those are his colleagues. That's the workplace. And I'm just going to say, as a black man myself, there's a certain way you ought to talk to any woman. There's a certain way you should address any woman. And, as a man, you are duty bound to stay in a well respected, well rounded position in the workplace, away from the workplace, in your home. It does not matter. It does not matter. You're bigger. And even though you are of African descent, you're still a man. There's no excuses. Why would you think any person would respect you for the way you talk to women or you talk about women? And even though he tried to clean it up and he was like, oh, you should Google this man has a problem. He needs to read the room. He needs to read the room. Now, if there's some latent frustration because you're not living your true self, your true life, or whatever, it doesn't matter. You're not a woman. I don't care who you dress like, you're not a woman. And you don't have a foundation as a man to project yourself to a woman in the workplace or any place else like that. It's bad taste. It's really bad taste. It's like they say, it's one thing to say things behind a person's back. Oh, sorry about that. But when you're in their face, a certain level of contempt can cause you problems. And, everybody gossips, everybody whispers. Fine. That's what we do. We're human beings. But it doesn't look good for you to sit there at that table and get so sassy like that. I never liked him. I never liked him. I saw this arrogance, this benign arrogance that he had years ago, and I'm just like, I don't care what you do in the bedroom. Man up, man up. Be a gentleman. Be a gentleman. Don't be that person. Yeah, that's I saw something there. I saw something there and I didn't like what I was seeing. And so when I would see Donatella, I just go, ugh, and turn the channel. I couldn't take it. I could not take it. It represents the worst of his demographic. It really represents the worst. So I was just like, okay. And then let me go on and say this too. Don Lemon won't be on CNN's Monday Breakfast Show because he's taking surprise extended holiday in Miami Beach after sexist Nikki Haley remarks. And mind you, I don't like Nikki Haley. I can't stand her. But I'm not on a television network. I'm not on CNN. We just had this conversation yesterday about Megyn Kelly. And I, God knows, I don't want to compare him to Megyn Kelly, but there's just certain things when you're in those positions that people are not going to accept. And American television, just for you guys who don't know, on American television, on certain shows in America, a person in Don Lemon's position, aside from, a trashy network like Fox News, you know how he said about Harry, it's just not done. It's just not done. Well, for him, you're the patriarch of the moment, especially given his experience, especially given his position. You're the patriarch, and people expect better from you. We don't have morning shows in the U.S. that are trashy like Good Morning Britain. We just don't. We don't have those exchanges on Good Morning America. Now they have become very tabloid, but never in the vein of that. And I got a feeling that Don Lemon would actually thrive in those spaces. You know, don't turn into a left wing version of this, where you're constantly trying. Ever since, and I think they're looking for a reason to get rid of him. To be honest with you, I think they're looking for a reason to get rid of him. And I'm going to say this too. Maybe he should have put some pasties on. Maybe he should have put some pasties on. But yeah, there's bad move, Don. Bad move. Bosses hold conversations about his future. So let's go over here to the right side. This is when a lot of people, especially during that period when there was much discussion about colonization. Do you guys remember this woman went on television with Donatella and cleaned her clock out? Lemon squeeze. CNN host is stunned into silence when royal commentator says African kings, not British royals, should pay reparations for slavery because they rounded up their own people and had them waiting in cages on the beach. Now, that's a version of things that you don't hear often. And rather than give a vigorous defense, repartee, instead, he just went radio silent and said thank you. And he gave a platform to this royalist. And, I don't know her well enough to say that she's a white supremacist, but he gave her a platform without any pushback as an African American man whatsoever. So he was stunned into silence. I was stunned into silence. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what is they paying you for? I just couldn't believe it. And this, for some people, was the first time that people got a good look at Donatella Lemon. This is when people first got a good look at Donatella Lemon. This is learned behavior by Donatella, and when no one corrected his backslide, when he was a young teen, he carried it up the food chain. Lorna Williams, I think that makes more sense than just about anything I could have said. I really do. Let me see here. Lefin, Gaston. Okay. Hello to you too. Mayot, right? Mayot. Hello everyone. Do you know that Dr. Shola received a? Oh, well, yeah, we just talked about that. I know it's a bit of a delay. But yeah, thank you for that comment. Let me see. Don Lemon is history, which he deserves. What does a gay man know when it comes to a woman's prime? Exactly. That is just one of those topics that is better left alone. There's some places, it can be very awkward sometimes to have certain conversations about things that really ought not be discussed or should just be left alone. Her prime. And then this is the crazy part. They're talking politics. And one of the women said, do you mean sexually or? And he's like, just look it up. Look on Google. It just went from bad to worse. I'm like, what is you doing? What is you doing? He's making it sound, from what I heard, And the women, you know, one of them or both of them even tried to help him recover, but then he leaned in on it. I'm just like, what is you doing, stupid? He even leans into it instead of trying to get as you ought to put as much room between that first comment and yourself as possible. But this big dummy leans into it. I'm like, how stupid can you be? That was dumb. Just dumb. I mean, put some space between yourself and what just slid out of your very sassy mouth. But instead, he leans in on it. I'm just like, you know what? You on your own, Donatello. You are on your own. What a dum dum. I can't get over it. I cannot get over it. Thank you for your comment. I prefer that guy who was covering QE2's funeral and mentioned Harry and Meghan and the other royals. Yes, there you go. I'm with you on that one. Vanetta Chapman said Don doesn't view himself as an African American man. Apparently, I don't know what's in his heart, but I know what's been coming out of his mouth. And you give a platform to a royalist and a possible white supremacist, possible, and you give absolutely no pushback. You give no pushback on American television. Nobody's talking over you. Nobody is seizing your camera or your microphone, and yet you yield the bulk of the time to someone on CNN of all places. Look at the dumb look on his face. Look at that dumb look on his face. Look at him. He had don't you know basic African American history? Don't you know any basic information about the transatlantic slave trade? Ships with goods from London or Dover or wherever the heck it comes from off to Africa. They trade these goods for human beings. Those human beings go to the Caribbean and to the coast of the 13 colonies turned United States, and in exchange for cotton, tobacco, and whatever else, those ships would go right back to England. And this was the triangle that was used to create the transatlantic slave trade, a trade of goods and people who would spend the rest of their lives in service. And no matter who, what, or where those people got to the beaches or shores, this so-called Christian nation of England, this so-called Christian nation, complete with their clergy, would go to these places, kidnap these people, and take them to the Americas because they didn't want that kind of heat at home where everything was supposed to be so perfect. I mean, we're taking enough advantage of our own, native population. We don't want them to see how bad we treat other people. So take them to the Caribbean. Take them to the Americas. No pushback. That just dumb. Just dumb. Not Dom Lemon, dumb lemon. Dumb. Look at his face. Look at his face with those glasses looking into the camera. And this woman just dumped all kind of bile out of her mouth about the transatlantic slave trade, absolutely absolving any responsibility of the slave trade from the royal family. She's there to defend the Queen's memory. Look at the date. It's 20 September 2022. She's there to speak up and uphold the royal family and the memory of the Queen. And Don Lemon, a queen, is sitting there with absolutely nothing to say. It just didn't dawn on him. I cannot get over it. I cannot get over it. And I, when I start prosecuting the case like Sister Petal, I've had enough of it. I'm sick of it. Do you hear me? Sick! I'm sick of it. What a spineless, useless, poor excuse of a human being. Oh, the squad should expose it on social media. Let it trend all over the media and the world. Dr. Shola should set up cameras in her house, car, body cameras, etc. Joy Bell, I am more than certain that Dr. Shola is doing everything that is necessary. I'm more than certain of that. And, we have her in prayer. She's going to be covered in prayer, and she's going to be okay. I do believe I need to believe she's going to be okay. Iris, thank you so much for, let me see. Oh, you're a new member. Well, thank you so much, Iris. And thank you so much for the new membership and watching Royal Sussex. Elaine Parker, thank you for the super sticker, and thank you so much for being here and being a member of Royal Sussex. And there we go. Let me highlight here. Perfection. I knew I saw something out the corner of my eye. Speaking of seeing something out the corner of my eye, did they not have any pasties at the beach? Because I'm getting kind of nervous. Let me move on because those things are starting to scare me. So right here, it's just not done. It's just not done. CNN anchor Don Lemon slams gauche Prince Harry for airing dirty laundry in new book Spare as American media begins to turn against royal. Don Lemon has branded Prince Harry gauche for choosing to publish claims his brother Prince William physically attacked him in his bombshell, oh God, there goes that word bombshell, in his bombshell book Spare, saying it's just not done. And again, Donatella seems to be morbidly curious with what it's like to be the Duchess of Sussex, as evident by this photo and this photo. This is someone who is morbidly curious with what it's like to be the most influential woman in the world, and you're not even the most influential man at your network. Good luck with that. Let me know how that works out, Donatella. Oh boy, I tell you, Donatella got a lot of nerves. Oh, is it Iris? Oh, Iris, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. And many happy returns of the day. Yes, thank you for being here on your birthday. We're going to have to celebrate later. I love birthdays. So let's take a look here. This is the height of hypocrisy. This is the fire. This is the fire. And no, this is not about someone needing any type of antibiotic because they had a good weekend. No, this fire is what it says to my friends about racism. Don Lemon. Well, Don Lemon, is this his second book? When I was a victim of, when I was a kid. Well, okay, so Harry, they said Harry said too much in his book. He spoke about his first time. He spoke about being bullied. He spoke about being neglected. But yet it's okay for Donatella. He wrote the book Transparent, and then he has another book, This is Fire, which has nothing to do with a weekend of debauchery that required penicillin. No, not that fire, I suppose. Then again, I really don't know him. But yeah, Transparent, where everybody was supposed to feel sorry for Don Lemon and feel sad because he was a victim and something happened to him. But yet, when it comes to Harry cannot have the same respect for telling his story, but it's okay for Donatella to tell her story. What is you doing? Hey, bruh, what is you doing? That is the height of hypocrisy. You don't want Harry to tell his brother. You dubbed him as being gauche. At first, he couldn't think of the word, and then he comes back and he says gauche. First, he said it's just not done. If you guys have seen it, first he says it's just not done. And then when he comes back after going through his Google, he said gauche. That's the word I'm looking for, gauche. Now, you know what? If I wasn't on, y'all know I could cut up. If I was not on a public forum, let me tell you, I would read Donatella from A to Z. But because I'm in a public forum, I cannot do it. But let me tell you what else is gauche. What's gauche is when you want to tell your story, but you don't want him to tell his story. Now, a long time ago, a woman who was like a mother to me that I held very close in my heart, who explained the thing to me about life. She says, let me tell you something. There's white people's business and then there's black people's business. And as far as I'm concerned, light-skinned Harry and Meghan, that's black people's business. That's how I feel about it. That's black people's business. It concerns Doria. It concerns those cheering. That's black people's business. And he says that's gauche and it's just not done in front of Max flippin' Foster, a known royalist, Max Foster. And the people who follow Max Foster on social media, oh, you know, they were glad to hear Donatella say it was gauche after he figured out what the word meant. But before that, he said, it's just not done. It's just not done. He had so much to say about light-skinned Harry and Meghan, but when it came to having a royalist and alleged possibly white supremacist shift the blame of the transatlantic slave trade to black people, you don't have so much to say. You are a mute. You are a mute woman or a person or a being. You're mute. You're a mute Donatella. So you sat there and you let this woman come on CNN, on American television, and spew all this bile about the transatlantic slave trade, absolving any type of responsibility from the British royal family. What was it, the Duke of York, that was one of the co-signatories for the it wasn't the East India Company. It was the one that went to South Africa, went to Africa. Well, you would just give them a blanket, silence in response to everything she said. But when it comes to Harry, you're going to say, oh, that it's just not done. And then after commercial break, you come back and say, gauche. Gauche, that's the word I was looking for, gauche. Oh, boy, I tell you, it takes all can, and I do mean all can. But, let me take a look at a couple of your comments. Lambert Charles, I don't know why I would say it the other way around. Baron, we lost Diana, and the ones responsible seem to have gotten away with it based on what's going on in Britain with the many threats. Harry and Meghan must be very careful. Very true. And you know what? I don't suspect anything is going to happen to them during the coronation. I just don't. As even though they seem to have a complete lack of concern for the Sussexes, if anything would hasten the end of that institution, it would be something happening to them during that coronation. I'm just sure of that. They don't want that. So nothing's going to happen during the coronation. But Harry wants to have freedom to come and go from that country with the proper security as he is born to expect. I mean, that is his birthright, is to be secure in his home. And there's a possibility that Harry may win his case and still not trust those people with him or his family. But it's the principle. And so whether Harry exercises his prerogative to use the royal protection and metropolitan police, or whether he wins his case and still goes about his business the way he's always done, perhaps with a personal bodyguard or two, that's his prerogative. That's Harry's call. But on principle, he is justified to fight this case. Okay, let me see here. He had woo! He had to phone a friend. That's how Don Lemon came up with the term gauche. He had to call somebody. Yeah, no, it's that other word. No, it's that what is that person called me that time? Yeah, remember when we were in that restaurant and I was full of myself and they said that I was being, well, what was the word? Gauche. That's it. I'll call you back. And then he goes back on air. Gauche. That's the word I was looking for. Gauche. In front of Max Foster, of all people. Max Foster. Oh, heaven help me. Heaven help me. Hazel Jones says the African kings had as much choice in the matter as the Indian Maharajas did in Indian matters. None. Hazel Jones, you better say it again. It's something about a fleet of well-trained soldiers and sailors landing on the beach with firearms and cannons and such that can really persuade a person to do as they're told. I was looking at something about the dodo bird. The dodo bird wasn't stupid, but the dodo bird had never been exposed to the Dutch. When the Dutch went to, what is it, Mauritius or whatever island that is, where the dodo birds existed for thousands of years without predators, when the Dutch arrived with their dogs, with their cats, and of course with rats, it devastated the population of the dodo bird. And around maybe 1610 was the last time there was a sighting of a dodo bird. Now they call it the dodo bird like it's stupid, but it wasn't stupid. But it had no expectation that something like a European would ever show up. They lived in isolation on that island. And that's the way most of the world was when it came to the idea of colonization. The idea of battle was battling your neighbor, not somebody coming in on a fleet of ships. It was the Chinese that created gunpowder, but they thought, oh, this is nice. We could use this for fireworks. But it took the Europeans to turn it into a weapon of mass destruction. Nobody needs to be embarrassed or apologize or try to explain something as awful as that. Something like that happened and it helped the Europeans conquer the globe. It was that unforeseen situation. But when you know better, you do better. And there were people who knew better, but greed is what ruled the day. So, thank you, Hazel Jones, for clarifying that. And that is that is very wise of you. I don't watch CNN. I find it more drama than real news. They repeat the same things over and over, and their reporters are actors with raised voices and the over the dramatic background music. Lorna Williams, I couldn't have said it better. Thank you. That's exactly what it is. I told you guys you have to be very protective about what you take in because the enemy wants you to be nervous and reactive and hostile and afraid so that, like any abusive relationship, you'll come right back to them so that you can find some kind of solace or security in more of their theater. It is not news, it's theater, in more of their theater. You end up trusting them for security. You trust them for information, and in turn, they elevate your blood pressure and make you afraid to go out of the house. Not a good idea. Maddie says, I was a volunteer for the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center for 10 years. It's the only national museum not in DC Don needs to visit. He'll learn something and never be the same. I hope so, Maddie. I really, really hope so, Maddie B. He needs to learn something. Iris, thank you for being here on your birthday. And happy birthday to you. Thank you for being here. Okay, let's move on because I am just getting started. A.N. Wilson, Prince Andrew's probably wishes we would mind our business, mind our own business rather, but it is our business that he is expecting a public subsidy to enjoy his grotesquely luxurious and extravagant life of privilege. Well, I don't know this A.N. Wilson, but you know what? I like this person, guy, girl, whatever it is. I like this person. I'm going to tell you why. Because for a change, somebody's actually saying something that makes sense. Harry and William are not the only pair of royal brothers who seem to be at war with one another. Prince Andrew's friends claim that he is furious with the king for telling him that he cannot expect to receive the £249,000 what is it? Whatever. From the Duchy of Cornwall. This is it an? Oh, never mind. This is a sum apparently that the late Queen used to give each year to Andrew, her supposed favorite child. The sovereign is the Duke of Lancaster and receives an enormous rents which come from the portfolio on top of their money from the civil list. The king is said to have warned his family that they must tighten their belts and not expect to get much money as their late mother had been paying them at a time when inflation, at a time when inflation is hitting every household in the country. It does look rum. It does look rum. That's weird. That individuals, members of the royal family, is that Old English? It does look rum. Oh, God, that's weird. That individual members of the royal family should be helping themselves to quite such a large sum. They're not helping themselves. The Queen gave it to them. And if you don't want to give it to them, don't. So right here, the king is right to put as much distance as he can between himself and his brother. Ask any sensible person. However, much of the monarchists, they may call themselves whether Prince Andrew should be living at Royal Lodge. And the answer would be to the quote, to quote Mrs. Thatcher, words of long ago, no, 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 he shouldn't be living at the Royal Lodge. So, you know what? I like that person. I'm pretty sure they said something anti-Meghan and hateful, or anti-Sussex and hateful, but I'm going to give them credit for this one. And then, okay, so there's this one right here. It's just for Instagram. How can, Good Morning Britain, God, I hate that show. How can that be a narrative? That's dangerous to be the best version of yourself. From mini petties to blow dries to lashes, brow tints, and bikini waxes, 68% of moms apply makeup on the same day as giving birth. Should moms dress to impress to push? Well, you know, take a look at Kate with George, with Charlotte, and then that very bizarre red dress where she comes outside of the Lindo ward looking like Rosemary's Baby. So she comes out of the Lindbergh ward dressed like she's in the movie Rosemary's Baby. But what all three of those photos have in common, hair extensions, lashes, smoky shadow, too much rouge, make it look like she worked in one of them houses. But in every instance, Kate is standing there all spackled and painted. So why? And this woman should be ashamed of herself, for the blonde, that is. She should be ashamed of herself for showing up on that show in the first place. That was dumb. This is another case of something that was absolutely an unnecessary foul. She shouldn't have shown up. Instead of talking about people heating their homes, instead of talking about the food banks, instead of talking about the young people who did not want the Brexit, 70% of them, who can no longer have the ease of going back and forth to the continent that they had before and working and experiencing the good life, instead of talking about those things, all of the trucks stuck at the port of Calais and the port of Dover, instead of talking about the fact that people are throwing eggs and protesting the monarchy, they have found time to take a break from Meghan and Harry. Thank God for that. And talk about a influencer on social media who thought to be her best self while representing herself on her social media platform, while we still have remnants of Kate standing outside the Lindo ward, reenacting her mother-in-law's forced steps outside the Lindo ward. She's reenacting that. And then, strangely enough, she even decided that just for fun, I'm going to throw in the Rosemary's Baby. How about that? Yeah, she's wearing stilettos. I mean, she's got everything. Nothing is left to chance. And so, why are you calling this woman out for being the best of who she is? What a waste of time, which is why I'm just about to move on. The properties being reviewed. Well, have we gotten to this point? Charles is actually considering what to do with that vast portfolio of properties that belongs to the sovereign, to the royal family and the crown estate. Now, what he owns outright, of course, is Highgrove, Sandringham, Balmoral, and whatever else, Burke Hall, something else. But anyway, the Balmoral estate is valued at almost £100 million. So it is said that Charles is going to throw open the doors to Balmoral so the public can see Balmoral for the first time. I don't think it's ever been open to the public, which, you know what? I'm going to give him credit for that. That makes a lot of sense. Open up Balmoral to the public. It gives people a chance to see where the Queen lived and you know where she eventually died. Give people a chance to see that. God knows they're paying enough for it. That's a good idea. But aside from that, there are 4 core members of the senior royals that are working royals for the firm. And considering the vast portfolio of properties, they will never live in all of those places, and least of all, not at the same time. So the Royal Lodge is valued at £30 million. That is where Andrew, the sick old man, lives there. Highgrove is Charles' pet project, and that whatever that is, 3.24 million. I ain't never heard of that one before. And the Castle of May, never heard of that one either. But these are just some of the properties. These are the ones that he's reviewing. Why Harry and Meghan may avoid the coronation. Royal experts says security fears over Prince's Taliban claims, ridicule of memoir revelations, and seismic drop in public opinion are among reasons couple may reconsider. Oh, you guys, let me take a sip of water because I'm about to dig in deep. As you can see, I have a list of grievances to air. So, Richard Fitzwilliams pointed at couples plummeting approval ratings. Okay, seismic drop, plummeting approval ratings. Let him tell it, they about to just fall off the face of the earth. Now, y'all know that that's not true. I know that that's not true. But hear me out. Now, Richard Fitzwilliams, this is the one who was caught by the pranksters lying about having seen the Oprah Winfrey interview before it ever happened. As you can see here, back in 2022, April the 15th, 2022, tourists saw them. Meghan and Harry's security concerns questioned after Queen's visit. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's security concerns have been questioned by royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams after they paid a private visit to the Queen. Why would we listen to you? Why would we listen to you? Aren't you the one who took an undisclosed amount of money, if it's the same as Victoria Arbiter, 300 pounds, but aren't you the one who took an undisclosed amount of money from a couple of pranksters on YouTube to lie, to bear false witness, and pretend that you had actually saw the Oprah Winfrey interview? And I mean, he spoke with all the authority of someone who was right there in the editing room as they snipped, cut, and taped all of the footage together. You would have thought that he was sitting just over the director's shoulder. You would have thought he was holding the boom, picking up every sound of that interview, when the truth is he was thousands of miles away, 5,000 miles away in the UK, being pranked by a couple of YouTubers who convinced him to go on record and lie as though you had actually watched the interview. He has never apologized for it. I don't know that he's ever acknowledged it. But he wasn't the only one. There was Victoria Arbiter. And just like a good father, teach your child to lie. Dickie Arbiter. And then there was also Ingrid Seaweed. Ingrid Seaweed, Dickie Arbiter, Richard Fitzwilliams, another Dickie, and Victoria Arbiter, all three of them. And this is the worst part about it is they approached other royal reporters and they said no. But these four geniuses, this curious quartet, they were the ones who said yes. This very curious quartet of liars were the ones who said yes. And as you can see, as illustrated by one of the squatties, liar, a person who tells lies, has a reputation as a liar. So their reputations are secure to anybody who's actually paying attention, But for anybody who wants to hear the hatred and the misinformation that they're capable of pushing out there because they're royalists and sycophants, then you don't want to know that they were caught out by a couple of pranksters on the YouTube. So, Ingrid, who bears a striking resemblance to a Hanna-Barbera character, she was one of the people who took that small sum of money, not worthy of her dignity, but she, forfeited her dignity and took that small sum of money and went on record lying about having seen an interview that hadn't even happened yet. So, of course, it doesn't make any difference that she bears a striking resemblance to a Hanna-Barbera character, but I would be remiss if I didn't point it out. And even worse, I don't even know what remiss means, but I know I would be if I didn't point that out. So I would be remiss if I didn't point it out that she bears a striking resemblance to a Hanna-Barbera character from the cartoons. And then, of course, there's Victoria Arbiter. Victoria Arbiter, she did an interview where she was so upset and she wanted, and you know what? Now that I recall, who did she do that interview with? Who did she do the interview with? Do you guys remember? Anybody know? Straight from Easter Island in the South Pacific. Straight out of Easter Island. She actually did that interview with someone else who has been known to stretch the truth. Boy, they stick together, don't they? Somebody else who has been known to stretch the truth, who has little or no regard for the truth and is totally obsessed with the Sussexes. So, you know what? They keep good company, don't they? I mean, they understand each other, that's for sure. So you got, let's review. You got Richard Fitzwilliams. You got Ingrid Seaweed, who bears a striking resemblance to a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. And yes, thank you, Mo Shannon. Easter Island heads. You got Vicky. I was so worried I couldn't eat. I lost weight and my eyelashes fell out. Arbiter, who has also been known to stretch the truth. And then let us not forget the daddy. Let us not forget the daddy, who's a chip off the old painting of Scream, Dickie Arbiter, someone who used to work for the Queen as a press secretary. And as press secretary, he was entitled to a grace and favor apartment. And so he actually lived on one of the properties. And so did, yes, you got it, so did Vicky Arbiter. So the apple doesn't fall too far from from the tree. So those four people, that curious quartet who have been caught wanting in their characters, all happen to give us some contrived witness to the Oprah Winfrey interview. So my point is, why should we listen to what Richard Fitzwilliam has to say? Because he has proven that he cannot be trusted. So this idea that Harry and Meghan may avoid the coronation, the thing is, I just said it. I don't suspect anything is going to go wrong during that coronation. This is all clickbait. This is more hype, and even worse, it's just a lie. It's just guessing on his part. He doesn't know anything more than what you and I know. Okay, I hope I can put this to bed. South Park roast Harry and Meghan. So yesterday we all heard from the young lady who actually took them to task. By the way, that quote up there from Jen Chaney has nothing to do with her, but I just added her image to this slide. So I'm going to play that sound bite for you guys so you can hear it for yourself. This very bright young lady seemed to, have a good handle on everything that is wrong with this whole debate about the South Park. But if you will allow me, I'm going to add a little something of my own.
Okay, so this is a big deal, isn't it? That they have had the Mickey taken out of them on a massive show like that. It's like when you're in The Simpsons, it's always an accolade. Yeah. When you're in South Park, I'm not sure so much.
No, what this is embarrassing. That's what it is. The fact that you're comparing South Park to The Simpsons to figure out if a person is popular or not, my God, the level of delusion that these people have is. These are the same people that insist that they're tired of hearing about Harry and Meghan and that they just should go away. But no, they're having a roundtable conversation about The Simpsons and South Park.
So, great point. You want them to go away. Amen to that, BD. You want them to go away, but yet you're having this lengthy debate about how upset they are and how this is going to further impact them in America. So, what's his name? I forget this guy's name. The one with the glasses. No, the guy on the left side with the glasses, not the other one. The guy with the glasses, he writes for Newsweek. If you guys know his name, please throw it up there. But he's been doing a very convincing job to seem like he's fair and reasonable, but not convincing enough for the squad because we see right through him. So he said that Newsweek has done polls that shows that the Sussexes are not Michelle and Barack Obama 2.0, but instead they have somehow fallen way to the bottom of the charts with their popularity. Let me tell you why I think this is so ridiculous. The reason why this is stupid is because, number one, they're not a political couple. They speak out about politics. They have long-standing relationships with politicians. Jack Royston, thank you so much, Sheila Hilton. But they are not politicians. They are private citizens who have the titles from Harry's birthright. Okay? They're wealthy. They're philanthropists. They're in service of humanity, but they're not president and first lady. They're not president and first gentleman. They do not have the weight of responsibility of the United States government in their CVs, in their resumes. So what difference does it make? And also, let me remind you of something else too. And by the way, the bald head guy, the one that looks like a villain from a Superman movie, he said, "Oh, I got to page 60 and I just couldn't finish the book. Oh, I just couldn't finish the book." In spite of what you could and could not finish, that book is number one. That docuseries is number one. That podcast was number one. It does not matter what you can't finish, what you can't stomach, what you can't tolerate, whether or not it makes your hair fall out. It doesn't matter. Everything the Sussexes touch turns to gold. And in the process, they have become incredibly wealthy and even increasingly and more so influential. So it doesn't matter what you couldn't take, what you couldn't finish. Now, the woman that kind of looks like Crepella, she swears she's Team Sussex, but she said, "Oh, but the that South Park was really funny. I'm all team Sussex, but it was really funny. And the woman with the dark hair there, she said, "Well, does it really matter the polls if the book is number one? If the docuseries is number one?" Now, she did say something that makes sense, but this is not, a balanced conversation. She still has a job to do, so don't expect much from her. She works for the network, so she has to pretend like what they say makes sense. Okay, she has to kind of concede that what they say is reasonable, even though you can tell from the look on her face. She said, "Does it make a difference what the polls say if they are selling these books? If they've been successful with their docuseries, if they've been successful, or Megan, well, I'm just going to say they, just like the book They, that they've been successful with the podcast, what difference does it make? We all know that Invictus is getting bigger by the day, not by the year, but by the day. Every other day, there's something new added to Invictus. Every day. Another photo, another team, another mention of excitement, another sponsor. Every day there's something. So the polls for a couple that have not occupied elected office, that are not working members of the royal family, I'm just curious as to what bias one-sided poll from Newsweek magazine with a reporter who tries to pretend like he's fair and balanced. If you're fair, then you know that they are not, either one of them, elected to public office. And so the scrutiny, this is where it really gets disingenuous. The scrutiny that they have been under for how many years has it been now? Since 2016? The scrutiny that they have been under in no way measures to the way the Obamas were treated. The Obamas were not a threat to the royal family. The Obamas were not a threat to the institution. The Obamas were not even a threat to British white supremacy. Everything about the Sussexes actually threatens, or is a perceived threat to those institutions, those traditions, or that culture. Not the Obamas, but the Sussexes. Their very existence challenges this notion of white supremacy. It challenges the notion of being born ordained to sit on the throne. All of that is challenged. Every day that Meghan does something incredibly impressive, it actually flies right in the face of one of the most dim-witted, dull, lackluster human beings that have ever drawn a breath. Every day that Harry does something extraordinary, it flies in the face of one of the most dull, contemptible, dim-witted individuals who have ever drawn a breath. Neither one of these people are worth the time of day, but yet they have somehow been thrust upon the world stage because he was an accident of birth. He came first. And because she was the one who was of age to maneuver into the same school that this dimwit was in. That's the only reason why they exist as the pathetic couple that they are today. What they do have no relevance whatsoever in changing the world. Their lives are all set out for them. Everything will be done for them. They're useless. William is over 40 years old and has little to show by way of accomplishment, except for his clever ability to imitate a bottle of deodorant. Kate has nothing to show for her accomplishments except for tinkering around on the piano like an entry-level music student. That's all they have to show for it. They have done nothing. 5 questions about child development that a child has actually and very eloquently spoke about at a TED Talk. Could you imagine Kate doing a TED Talk? Could you imagine it? What is a Kate TED Talk? Is it even fair to call it a talk? You know you don't get to use cue cards, right? You don't get cue cards with a TED Talk. With a TED Talk, you're on your own. Could you imagine a world where Kate Middlebaum, Kate, my dress is flying over my head, look at my behind, Middleton. Kate, let me throw my behind out the window. I think I see some boys coming. Could you imagine her doing a TED Talk? What must that be like? I shudder to think. I'd be embarrassed for her. I would be embarrassed for her. That would be, it would shock, talk about shock and awe. That would be shock and awe. So how dare they make this assertion that the Sussexes are just not even on par. They were supposed to be on par with the Obamas. They thought they were going to be Obama 2.0. They never wanted to be Obama 2.0. Now, the model of philanthropy, the model of having a foundation, definitely. But that was Megan's life intention from the start. She didn't have the words for it. She didn't know how she was going to do it, but that was her future. Same with Harry. He thought that he was going to be able to do these things to make himself useful to humanity within the confines of that dreaded institution. But instead, they found each other and they have paved their own way in this life. And so they don't have to depend upon that institution to do the work that they were born to do. So this doesn't make sense. This is stupid. The polls. We took a poll. Newsweek magazine took a poll. You know what you could do with that poll? As for Barack Obama, 11 years in a row, Barack Obama is America's most admired man. Barack Obama is not on the global stage on a daily basis like Harry and Meghan. So it's disingenuous to mention a poll that has nothing to do with the reality of two people who, through no fault of their own, have become the victims of a hate campaign from the British tabloid media. That's the difference. And if Jack Royston had the sense God gave a lemon, he would say just that the polls may be skewed because the Obamas are not the topic of conversation from one day to the next. When a president leaves office, a president leads a life of relative obscurity in comparison to their days in office. It is a way to show respect to the president, the present president. It is a way to show them respect by retreating into the background and giving them the room to lead without any confusion. Now, the last president tried to go against that convention, but Barack Obama has stuck with the tradition of staying out of the way and being available to the current president if called upon. That is the tradition. So anybody who's not from the United States, I'm telling you what the tradition is. The president stays out of Dodge unless he's called upon to represent this country. That's what a former president does. So Barack Obama is not a daily topic of conversation. So it doesn't make sense to compare the Sussexes, the victims of a hate campaign from the British tabloid media, to Michelle and Barack Obama, who have honorably served this country and have retreated into relative obscurity by comparison of their days at the White House. If you take a look here, Barack Obama is living his best life. Michelle and the girls are living their best life. Michelle has written a book. Obama has written a book. The girls have gone to school and have jobs and love lives. The mother-in-law is no longer the victim of the right-wing media. They're not accusing her of requesting money from the federal government from babysitting her own grandkids, which is what the right wing accused her of. There's a lot of comparisons to be had for the way the Obamas were treated, but there's no bearing on the existence of the Obamas today in comparison to the Sussexes. The Obamas may have been the most influential couple in the world, but today they are still highly regarded. They are very influential, but they're not the ones that people are writing about every day. They're not the ones enriching the royal rotas. It's the Sussexes. The socioeconomic background of the journalist, higher socioeconomic background, that's 84% of reporters, journalists, and 73% of the editors. Lower and middle socioeconomic background, very few, 16 and 27% respectively. The narrow section of society dominates our media landscape. It has an adverse effect on democracy as well as our news values, which stories are told and how they are told, and what's deemed newsworthy and what isn't. I saw the damaging effects of this in my own country. So Basit Mahmood is explaining here, and I've shared this before, why the British tabloid media is so dangerous and what makes them so one-sided in their reporting. It's because they themselves, and of course this term public school, in America, public school means that you go to a tax-funded school, but in the UK, public school is a private school that was so exclusive that it opened up its doors to other wealthy kids, and that's why they call it public school. Now, that's my best explanation of it. So when you hear that most of the Tories have gone to public school, that's what they're talking about. Public school means that if they weren't in government, or if they are in government, they would or may have come from the same background as that 84% and that 73%, just like Boris Johnson, who was a news editor and writer before he became a politician. There's a vast difference between the Sussexes of today and the Obamas of today. Prince Harry's fight to have police protection in Britain has cost taxpayers £300,000, new figures show. Is this on? So what? It has cost the taxpayers £300,000. The taxpayers would have to pay for those judges anyway. They would have to pay for the government's representation in court anyway. That is what they're there for. He could not use, and that number, I question the £300,000, but I'm going to go with it. He would not use those courts to defend himself and his family. And by the way, that £300,000 is just a flash in the pan of what the government is saving, because he is self-funded. He is self-reliant, because the Sussexes are not on the public dole. The Sussexes are not suckling from the sovereign grant. So that is a fraction of what the Sussexes would cost that government. As a matter of fact, dare I say that the income that the royal roters get is more than compensating that amount when and if they pay their taxes. Now, there are some people in journalism who don't pay taxes, but I'm going to leave Lord Nappyhead out of it. I'm not going to bring up Lord Nappyhead, who is said to not be a tax-paying citizen, but other people are. And where are they getting the money from? Well, if they are royal reporters, if they are royal rodents, they're getting their money from Harry and Meghan. So a bit of a stretch, but stay with it. The so-called men in gray, who are employees of the Crown and are members of RAVEC, they decide what Harry and his family didn't deserve. They decided that Harry and his family didn't deserve security. So you have the fly, the wasp, the mosquito, the bee, whatever, the fly, the bee, whatever they are. You have those individuals who took it upon themselves, or should I say, at the direction of the royal family, to do their dirty work to decide that the Sussexes do not require security. If they were able to have security, I'm sure it would have cost less than the £300,000 that Harry allegedly is spending in taxpayer money to sue for the right to have security. He has been victimized by the establishment, by the firm, by that institution. And so anybody who has been victimized by the system, whatever that victimization is, has a right for their day in court. I don't care how much it costs. Because you want to know what else that costs money? You want to know what else costs money? This costs money. The morticians cost money. That's right. The morticians cost money. And there's other things that cost money. How about £32,000 was spent on a travel for the royals to the premiere of Daniel Craig's last Bond movie, No Time to Die, in September 2021. That was one night out. £32,000. That's what costs money. The joke's on you, Britain. We have untold billions, but you heat our palaces, pay for our private jets, and keep us in unimaginable luxury. That costs money. That costs money. And Charles just waved them little fat digits around, telling people what to do with the taxpayers' money. How about trips? Let me see. Prince Andrew's 16,000 flight to Northern Ireland could have cost less than £100. That's interesting. Or how about this one right here? How about Camilla, Queen of the Desert? How much did it cost for them to go and dry out Camilla more than what she is already? That costs money. Everything costs money. My point is, everything costs money. And some of these expenses are totally unnecessary. Like when your castle burns down, right? When your castle burns down and you neglected to put insurance on your castle, that costs money. Okay? How about a yacht bigger than some cruise ships? That costs money. Everything costs money. That's my point. Everything costs money. And by the way, thank you so much for the PayPal and the Cash App I received while I was talking here. Thank you very much, both of you. And thank you for watching Royal Sussex. But all of those things cost money. So I'm just going to say, if we're going to get into the semantical argument about how much things cost, if we want to drift into the absurd, let's talk about how much stuff costs. How about a state dinner for someone who may be run out of office next week? How about that state dinner? I see bags of cash, red roses too. I saw a silver spoon and stuck it in my shoe. and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. State dinners cost money. I saw the sun shine in my eye. I took a carriage ride. Kate squeezed my thigh. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The color of the money so bright in my hand. I can't wait to get home and spend it when I can. Everything costs money. That's my point. Everything costs money. Someone who may not have a job soon, or did he step down yet? Whatever the case may be, all of that costs money. How does that dinner help? How does that dinner help the British people? By the way, that's an old photo. You can see the Queen. But how does a dinner like that help the British people? How? How did that carriage ride, the team of horses kept on the ready just in case somebody gets married or die, how does that help heat someone's home? Charles told me I'd have a good time. I got a little headache. I drank too much wine. But oh man. Okay. Let me go on. Keeping horses costs money. I don't know if you guys know this, but horse keeping costs money. Not all horses are for funerals, weddings, and state visits. Some horses you just keep because you like them. So horse keeping costs money. And if horses give birth to their foals, that costs money too. So horses cost money, foals cost money, or is it fawns, foals, whatever it is, no matter how bizarrely they resemble the mother, they all cost money. No matter what kind of problems they have with nose candy, they all cost money. Okay? All of that costs money. If they get a title, that costs money. If they get security, which I believe they do, that costs money. What is that? The International Monetary Fund 2023 GDP prediction among G7 nations puts Britain dead last. As a matter of fact, Britain is minus 0.6. But how does the royal family contribute to that? How much money does it cost to walk into a room and to be ignored by everyone? Huh? How much does it cost for people to watch you walk into the room and then they start looking at the pictures to see if they're leveled on the wall? How much does that cost? What's that going for nowadays? Oh, sorry, wrong direction. How much does it cost to have people stand around like a bunch of statues, like the terracotta warriors of China? How much does that cost? To have people looking at you like, what is you doing here? Aren't you the one who told that reporter and his family that they could not come to the BAFTA Awards because of your ongoing friendship with some very shady, devious people? What are you doing here? All of that costs money. Those things cost money. So I'm just saying that whatever they say, they are spending money, but they are making some very strange bedfellows. The monarchy cost us £345 million a year, enough to pay for 13,000 nurses. Enough to pay for 13,000 nurses. And Harry, a prince of the blood, who hasn't depended upon that figure for going on 3 years now, who has not depended upon that money since 2020. All right. Harry has not benefited from that money since 2020. And so they got all that money. They spending more money without the Sussexes. Did you all hear that? They are spending more money without the Sussexes. It says here, how much do you think the coronation will cost? We think it will be at least 50 million pounds. That's enough to pay for approximately, wait for it, 1,500 average nurses' salaries. 1,500 average nurses' salaries. And the coronation isn't needed. It's just a big party for Charles. So how long that pays for that, I don't know. But anyway, they're saying here 1,500 nurses. That's the estimate for that for $50 million, 50 million pounds that is being spent on the coronation. And so if I could quote Stacey Solomon, who has just given birth to a baby, they say, if I could quote her, what is it Stacey always says? Stacey says,
just don't get it. I don't get any of it.
What do you mean? You don't get what?
I don't get why we're so obsessed with these humans that are exactly the same. Like, it could be us four sitting there. I just don't get it.
But are you talking about what you mean as royals or as like Kim Kardashian? Because for me, they're becoming celebrities.
Well, yeah, to me, that's all they are.
The Queen
is their celebrity.
For me, is brilliant.
I love the Queen.
No, duty, responsibility.
She's always worked really hard, hasn't
I would
she?
work hard if the whole country paid for me to have like 12 houses and work really hard.
No, they don't pay for all of the houses, but
just a few.
Yeah, so I'm with Stacey. I just don't get it. I don't get any of it. I just don't get it. I don't get any of it. So let us review how the Crown Estate works. Well, the Crown Estate works like this. And follow me if you can. If you can, because I still don't get it. The Crown Estate makes money. The profits are paid to the Treasury. The Treasury calculates 15 to 25%, and then that goes to the sovereign grant, which it is paid to the Crown. And the Crown, of course, owns the Crown Estate, which makes a profit, which goes to the Treasury, which is calculated, it goes to the Crown, which goes to the Crown Estate properties, which is a profit. It makes a profit, and then that goes to the Treasury. The Treasury sends it to the sovereign grant after it's calculated, and then that goes to the Crown. Now, some people would say Ponzi scheme. Some people would say shell game. Some people would say flimflammery. I don't care what you call it, but it doesn't make sense. Why don't we just bypass the Crown instead of, making up numbers? Why don't we just bypass the Crown Estate? Why don't we stop with the profits? And why don't we just give a sovereign grant instead of pretending like they're making money, giving it to the Treasury, and then the Treasury decides how much they need and give it back? Why even bother with all of that flim-flamming? Why bother? And so then they tried to explain it again in a way that we would all understand. So here's the con. The con is the Crown Estate takes in the money, and that money, of course, is profits. That profit goes to the Treasury, which calculates it at 25%, and then that goes to the sovereign grant, and then the sovereign grant goes to the Crown or the monarch, and the monarch, owns the Crown Estate, which takes in the money. Now, someone decided, instead of going through all these, this circular wealth, why don't we just say it like it is? the Treasury gives the taxpayers' money to the Crown. End of story. Case closed. From the Crown Estate website, it is managed by an independent organization established by statute, headed by a board known as the Crown Estate Commissioners, and the surplus revenue from the estate is paid each year to the Treasury for the benefit of the nation's finances. You could just eliminate the Crown, and then you don't have to do that. As a matter of fact, there'd be a surplus of 350 million pounds that could go directly to the government. You don't even have to let them filter it through all of their cronies, all of their, Ravex and all those kind of people. You don't even have to let it go through all that. You ain't even got to go through the trouble. Just give them some money. Make sure that they take out fire insurance on their estate, right? Make sure they pay for the own upkeep of any emotional support animals. Which, by the way, you guys, you know that not only does Camilla's children get security, but the Crown Estate I take it back. Not the Crown Estate. I bet you the Royal Protection officers, which is not even calculated in that fund, they're the ones who are patrolling Camilla's house, and probably wherever the kids are staying, they get security as well. Tom Parker Bowl also probably gets security. I'm sure that there's all kind of security that drives them everywhere they go and do all their bidding, all courtesy of the tax-paying public. So, it's nice work if you can get it right. Right. But that is what 300, that little family right there, excluding the Sussexes, of course, costs a whopping 345 million pounds a year. And yet, Britain doesn't have nearly as many tourists as France, Spain, Germany, Austria, Italy. They don't even have nearly as many tourists. They are like in league with, say, Portugal. So the idea that the royal family, like how many people you think are going to go out of their way and go up to Balmoral just to see the castle? Balmoral is several hours, actually not several hours. I think it's about an hour's, maybe 45-minute drive from the airport is it Aberdeen Airport? I don't know how close it is to Edinburgh, and I know it's a long way from Glasgow. So how many people do you think are going to go up there so they could see Balmoral? Not many. I did, but, I'm kind of weird. But I didn't go to Balmoral, but I did go to Scotland. The royal family cost the UK taxpayers over 345 million pounds last year, while Meghan and Harry remained financially independent. It's all in the numbers. Hello is all in the numbers. So those two pensioners, or should be pensioners, is what the taxpayers are paying for. And trust me, they are just as miserable as they look. Anti-monarchy protests. Charles taking millions for coronation. Camilla's tabloid skullduggery. William's bullying, corruption, and pandemic denial. Kate shaming those needing food banks. Why do you have to do this, Meghan? One of the squatties posted that, and I kind of made a bigger image out of it. But it's not Meghan, it's the people that are praying for Meghan. It's karma. It's faith. It's that which it's grace. Grace is what's making this happen. If they leave her alone, there won't be any ruptured spleens. People's dogs wouldn't die. People wouldn't injure their backs and need spinal fusion surgery and stuff. All they have to do is just leave her alone. If they leave her alone, I guarantee you life will get better for them. So much will get better. You won't have to pretend. You won't be sitting at home pretending that someone threatened you, only for people to see that the email looked kind of suspicious. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to pretend like you know somebody you really don't, because you had a 15-minute conversation because they felt sorry for that bag lady that was sitting around every time they went somewhere, only to find out that's not a bag lady. That's actually a royal reporter or a troll doll. But yeah, if you feel sorry for that bag lady sitting there with that bad mushroom haircut and the ugly floral top, if you give them a 15-minute conversation and then you find out that they're actually a royal reporter, and then they're going to stab you in the back by turning around and writing a whole book to write a novel out of a 15-minute conversation. So yeah, that's some of the things, some of the bizarre things that have happened. Or you have some sad little man who wants to say it's much easier to blame anything uncomfortable on racism rather than address the fact that the negativity towards them is coming from within the royal family. It's coming from within the royal family. You know, it's a lot you have to endure when you're a Sussex, or should I say, when you're a winner. When you're a winner, there's a lot of things that go against you. There's always people plotting and scheming who want to bask in your glow and steal your essence, hoping that their pathetic little lives can somehow become elevated because they knew you win, but only talked to you for 15 minutes. There's always that. And that brings us to this sad tale. You would think, after nearly crashing the economy, for helping to ensure that the hardworking, working class, family-orientated people of Britain have gone nearly bankrupt, you would think that you would take a seat and stay out of it, right? Wrong. She's at it again. She is at it again. Just when you thought it was safe to go back to number 10 Downing Street, economic NATO should be created to counter China. Liz Truss, the ex-UK Prime Minister, says West should not repeat Ukraine's mistake in Taiwan. First of all, I don't know what Taiwan has to do with Ukraine. I know that Russia thinks Ukraine belongs to them. I know that China believes that Taiwan belongs to them. The difference is the United States has vowed to protect Taiwan. The United States did not vow to protect Ukraine. Now, I'm a layperson with little or no formal education, but I do know the difference between vowing to protect by written treaty compared to promising military assistance in case your aggressive neighbors attack you. Let me put it to you like this. Ukraine had one of the world's largest arsenals of nuclear weapons. in exchange for an agreement of peace with Russia and with the promise of help from the West, meaning the European Union, NATO, with the promise of assistance from NATO and the United States, which is part of NATO, they agreed to give back those nuclear weapons to that new Russia that emerged when the Iron Curtain fell. Okay, you with me so far? And so that's a big difference from Taiwan, which has never owned nuclear weapons, which actually has a treaty of protection by the United States. Now, China considers them a runaway province. The United States believe that they are a sovereign nation. And because of the agreements with the United States, they have a promise of protection. Their military actually trains with our military. Big difference. It's the same blanketed protection that has been given to Japan and to South Korea. Again, with my high school education, I know this, but the former prime minister, the former prime minister of the United Kingdom, God help him, don't seem to know the difference between Taiwan, which is under the protection of the United States, and a promise of protection from NATO. NATO is making good on that promise, by the way, but NATO has never vowed to fight their war. That's why we don't have troops in Ukraine. Okay? I shouldn't know these things, but I do. She should know these things, and she don't. So she comes up with this clever idea. Wait, y'all, listen. I know I messed up the economy. All right, I get that. But what if there was an economic cooperation between the European states that would actually be a safeguard against Russia? And as you can see up in the corner there, I don't know if you guys could see that or not, but someone actually took her to school and said, it is. It's called the European Union. Duh. It's called the European Union. Hey, Liz, it's called the European Union. They already have such a body. They already have an organization like that. It's called the European Union. How are you going to reinvent something that's already here? Now, what is she going to do? Come out next and say, hey, I just discovered the wheel. Listen. Have you guys ever heard of fire? I just discovered fire. Been there, done that. Oh, boy. The Tories represent everything that is going wrong for Britain right now. When election day come up, you guys have got to get rid of the Tories. I don't even know that there is someone who could actually steer that nation in the right direction. And I really feel bad because it's hurting working class people. Liz Truss is going to be okay. Boris Johnson and his evil sister are going to be okay. They're all going to be okay. But as long as there's backwards thinking, like, not backwards, but I don't even know if you can call it think, or never mind. Okay, let me go on. So, English heritage, Boris Johnson, Prime Minister, 2019 to 2022, lied and conned his way to the top to satisfy his ego at the expense of the country. A shabby, immoral, incompetent narcissist. Now, you could easily interchange the name Donald John Trump, and put it in place of Boris Johnson. The only thing is we don't have those kind of signage here. But if we did have signage here, you could easily replace the name Boris Johnson and throw Donald Trump in there. Now, I don't suspect that's a real sign, but it does speak volumes for what's happening in Western civilization today. You guys, we have to vote. We have to keep these greedy, selfish politicians away from government because they are ruining things. If it wasn't for Uncle Joe, if it wasn't for just a handful of Democrats, that do you know that every time Mitch McConnell met with Obama so that they can iron out things to see if there was anything they could agree upon, do you guys know the first thing Mitch McConnell would say is, can we do away with Social Security? Do you guys know that? Mitch McConnell, the turtle, wants to do away with Social Security. So when I tell you guys that Uncle Joe has been a godsend in the wake of Donald Trump, it's true. I don't care what he was in the past. I know he got a lot of stuff wrong, but hear me when I say this. You're going to need that Social Security. You may be depending on that Social Security. I know for certain that when Bush was president, he wanted to get rid of it. And the only thing that stopped it was when the economy crashed in 2008. But when things are better and when the Republicans get back in office, they're going to do everything they can to take it away from us. Don't forget, you guys, it is Black History Month. I think I have said plenty today. I appreciate you guys being here. And let us not forget our birthday celebration. Iris Demonia, right? It was her birthday. So let me get that cranked up. Hello, Ivy here. By the way, I listened to Ivy last night. It was really good. I listened to Ponsate, also Anita. And of course, I went over to Lady, is it Lady? Yeah, Lady Sussex. I went over to Lady, no, I'm sorry. Yes, anyway, y'all know where I went. But yeah, so I put the link to those in the, what do you call it? I put the link to it on the community tab. So what I just recommended, you will find it in the community tab. Okay, so let's cue up Ivy here to celebrate. It was one birthday, right? But anyway, let's cue up Ivy to celebrate that birthday. Hello, Ivy here. Hello, Ivy. Girl, the Duchess of Sussex won. Meet me at the Royal Sussex party. Janelle's gonna be there. All right, Ivy out. You know what? I have not come down from my high yet. As you know, yes, and as you know, it is Black History Month. So, whether you are African American or not, there's a lot of great history out there. There's a lot of things that you may have heard of and didn't know where it originated or where it came from. It is American history. Black history is American history. African Americans have been among the most loyal group of citizens in the history of this country. Everything from building the White House to fighting in the world wars and other wars. So, yep, it is a heritage I'm very proud of, and I'm learning more and more myself every day. So with that, I'm going to take a look at some of your comments, and then I'm going to bid you all a good night. Let me see here. Okay. Let me see. The UK country is crawling down, and all they do is to badmouth and harass Harry and Meghan to distract from failing their people. Well, don't forget, Lori, they also target the Obamas, the Bidens, the Clintons, all of the big city mayors, any place where there's a lot of black people, women of color, black women. They target a lot of people besides the Sussexes. And of course, all of that is done to enhance the profile of the British government, of the Tory party, of the royal family. Those are the ones that are predominantly selected to elevate as they try to diminish and despair, or should I say disparage, the United States. And of course, people that I identify with, know, or love, those are the people they tend to go after. And it hasn't escaped my notice. If they were as charitable and thoughtful to all of the people I just mentioned as I am to so many people over there, besides that institution, the royal family, the men in gray suits, the Cambridges, the Waleses, the Cornwallses, the whatever is. I ain't gonna lie and say I've been polite with them, because that would be a big that'd be a lie. So no. But thank you so much for your comment. Let's see. CR says, yep, Mitch and the Republican senators also didn't want to work with Obama, so Obama would have to send Joe to go make deals. Just sad. Yeah. Joe Biden was a very good vice president to Obama, and Joe Biden used a lot of his influence from being a member of the party as well as a long-serving member of the Senate. So yeah, and and two, is not just because he's a white man talking to another white man, but Joe Biden has a bit of persuasion. He is a crafty old guy, as you may have seen in the State of the Union address. And even in the absence of being the vice president, he still has a lot of swag with them. And I told you guys, I did not escape my notice that the Speaker of the House was sitting back there nodding his head and trying to contain his body language, but he has a lot of admiration and respect for Joe Biden, whatever his party affiliation. But Joe Biden is loved and respected by a lot of people in that party. Now, you got some of those, newcomers that don't know any civility. Thank you, CR. But there is some continuity there. But bottom line, though, no matter how much they like Joe Biden, if they have a chance to destroy Social Security, they will. They will. Shirley Kearney says that just goes to show just how ignorant those people are who constantly read the tabloids and look at their media outlets. Yep, that can be very dangerous. That is a good source of misinformation. I was so shocked when I heard this one lady who said that she found herself under attack from the tabloids. And she said, before that happened, I thought that most of what I read was true. But when she herself had that truth, that so-called truth turned against her, then she found out that it was actually something more sinister going on. Then she had a change of heart. She changed her mind about what was and was not accurate and true. So unfortunately, it took that for her to see the light. But before that, she was just another consumer that took all of those malicious words as gospel. Okay. Eva Johnson says, hello, Baron. Let CNN handle Don better left alone. Is a lot of people on TV that say things. Yeah, Eva Johnson, it is up to CNN to decide his fate. But you know, for some of the stuff that he's done, he probably need to be humbled. He appears to be a very arrogant man, in my opinion, and perhaps this is exactly what he needs to put his life on the right path. You know, even the worst of people will be humbled someday, and maybe this is what he needs. Maybe it's what he needs because he has a very big platform to be so useless to um to his race. You know, I know he's biracial, but to his race, he has a lot that he could do with his platform, and I just don't feel like he's done enough. But that's just my opinion. I'll admit I don't know him well enough because as soon as I see that smug face of his, I say, oh, he's too gauche, and I just turn the channel. But thank you for your comment. Lorna Williams says the only reason that Ukraine is not in NATO right now is because of the president of Turkey. He is also holding up membership of Finland. If Ukraine was in NATO, this war would be over. Well, I don't think Turkey is a member of NATO, right? Turkey, and you know, I think it's just because it's a Muslim country, but I think Turkey was denied membership to NATO. I think the reason why Ukraine hasn't been able to join NATO is because Ukraine, you know, is next door to Russia, obviously, and because of the tensions that took place after Poland joined, because see the dominoes of the old Warsaw Pact, and for those of you who don't know, the Warsaw Pact was a union of Eastern European countries that served as a buffer zone to any aggression from the Western European nations, also known as NATO. Now, there were a few nations that remained independent. Finland, who's a neighbor of Russia, thought it wise to remain independent. And Russia lobbied for years to make sure that they maintained that independence. And then there's also, you know, Switzerland, who's been constantly landlocked and always thought it wiser to get along with their neighbors. Switzerland's best defense, of course, is the mountainous region where it's located. But Switzerland was also a place where people from any country thought it was good to bank and invest. So that gave them a lot of security. Now Switzerland's thinking about, oh, should we join NATO? Finland, again, is a neighbor. Not a good idea, but because of Ukraine, now they're thinking differently. Yeah, we want to be part of NATO. So what Putin was trying to fight against, he's actually causing it to happen even further, and that is more countries joining NATO. NATO is a stepping stone to the European Union. And so first you take care of your defense, and then you take care of your economy by joining NATO. So it's those two steps that is advantageous to any country that joins. So, yeah, I don't think Turkey is part of NATO. Erdogan, that's the president of Turkey. I don't think he's a good fit for NATO because he has turned his nation into an authoritarian state. So that's not a good fit for NATO. NATO and the European Union requires democracy, not autocracy, or am I saying it right? Anyway, that ain't what they want. So, but thank you for your comment, Lorna Williams. And yeah, that's that. Let me see. Let me see what some of the last comments were. In order to join NATO, it's a unanimous vote. I read Turkey was holding up one. I didn't think Turkey was part of NATO, but maybe I'm wrong. But I didn't think Turkey was part of it. Turkey is. Are they? Okay. Because I know for a long time. Oh, Boris Johnson was the one who negotiated that. Okay. Okay. I didn't think they were, but I guess that changed. Okay, I just checked. You guys are right. Turkey is part of NATO since 1952. I think it's the European Union that they haven't been allowed to join. Give me just a second. Sorry about that, you guys. Okay, so Turkey is not part of the European Union, but Turkey is part of NATO since 1952. They don't want Turks to be able to come and go from Europe. They don't want the Turks to be able to come and go from Europe. So sorry about that, you guys. You're right. I had it mixed up. It's the other way around. So Turkey is not part of the European Union, but they are part of NATO. Okay. And you know what? Let me see. When they had the Cuban Missile Crisis, I remember that when the Russians had to take their missiles out of Cuba, the United States had to take their missiles out of Turkey, right? I think I got that right. So yeah, I was close, but I had the wrong one. Okay, so they're not part of the European Union, but they are part of NATO. So Erdogan is the one that's holding up the vote for Finland because Erdogan is siding with Russia when it comes to Ukraine. Okay, got it. Yeah, I wanted to research some stuff. I like to make sure I get it right. All right. So we're good. Anything else? Sound? Okay. You got it. I don't know. But if he does, I'm sure it's just as revolting as the main one, as the main side piece. Okay. Anything else? Let's see. Magdalena Hope says, you underestimate the capability of Russian trolls. I am Polish. I know what they do in what they do in Poland. They messed up the same way they are messing up Great Britain. Well, Magdalena, don't forget the 2016 elections here in the United States. I mean, they have been and continue to interfere. They said that Putin's biggest goal is the downfall of democracy. He doesn't want democracy. Democracy is like an enemy to his pursuits. You know, and that's really backwards thinking when you think about it, because let's face it, there's only a few economies in this world where people feel as though their money is safe and secure, right? There's only a handful of places. And so far, people have faith in the euro, which has only been around since what? Midnight of the year 2000. I remember I was in Munich and Venice. I was in Europe at that time, and so I had a chance to spend Deutschmarks and what is it, Lira? I had a chance to use those, right? And then, of course, next thing you know, here comes the euros. So euros are very secure and even preferred over the American dollar because they carry more value. And then, of course, there's the American dollar. People have a lot of faith in the American dollar. And, of course, the pound sterling. And a handful of other currencies, people have faith in it. So it's backwards for people in Russia and even China to interfere with that, because whereas the government of Russia and China, they may not care, but anybody who wants to invest and save money, where do they go? The Russians go to Britain, among other places. The Chinese go to Canada, Australia, and the United States, among other places, because they know their money is secure. And having faith in a currency is worth more than gold. Without the faith of a stable government, your money would be worthless. So it's very backwards to entertain the notions of a Vladimir Putin. It's very backwards to entertain notions of anybody where their money is so lacking in security and confidence that anybody with money from those countries try to move it someplace else. So whatever they say about the West, the only security they have is the Bank of England, is the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States, and so on. And that's just the fact. I mean, it is what it is. There's a lot of places where I'd be willing to invest money, and there's other places where I know I'd be taking my chances. Will they be there tomorrow? Will that government be there tomorrow? So, okay, thank you, Magdalena. Okay, it's almost going on 3 hours. I better get out of here because I didn't talk too much today. Let me see. Lori says, boo, election as prime minister in UK is also suspected of being Russian. Oh, you mean a member of parliament or prime minister? Russian doing, okay. Yeah, I hear you. Russian doing before the Brexit, as Russia hopes to divide and conquer. I remember a week prior to Bojo being elected was projected. Okay, this is what I remember. So Bojo, didn't he have something to do? No, I tell you what, Bojo, this is why I got confused. Boris Johnson was petitioning to get Turkey in the European Union, right? And the other members of the union thought it was a bad idea. And then all of a sudden, Boris Johnson, who is of Turkish descent, all of a sudden he said, oh, you know what? We shouldn't have Turkey in the European Union. Only for him to turn around as prime minister, when he became prime minister, and dump the European Union. Oh my God, it's a nightmare. He's a nightmare. He's a gift that just keeps giving. Thank God Trump is out of there. Let me see. I really do believe that Trump would have done anything to undermine. And you guys know that Trump, as soon as he got into the White House, the first thing he did was invite a couple of Russian diplomats to the Oval Office, as though he was sending a message to Moscow. Okay, it's secure. Trump literally invited the first people invited to the Oval Office, the first dignitaries he received as president of the United States were a couple of Russian diplomats. How about that? Good night, Joseph Berno. Okay, you guys, I better go too. Thank you so much. This has been very interesting. I am so glad for your time. Thank you so much for your generous donations to Royal Sussex, and happy Monday to you. Now, I got some cleaning to do myself. I am so in awe of myself. I have been doing a deep clean. I got so much done last night. And I'm going to continue that for today. I'm excited. And I will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully earlier, maybe later though, because I still need to go and do my emissions. They were closed today for President's Day. Thank goodness I didn't leave the house. But I'll try it again tomorrow. So thank you, and I will see you. God bless. Make sure you guys pray for Dr. Shola. Keep Dr. Shola in your prayers, because I tell you, if it's anything I've learned recently, it is very important that we keep a watchful eye and cover people that we love and respect and people that advocate for us. We have to keep them in our prayers. That is very important. And so that's it. Let me see. I'll be looking for a last word of the day. And also, thank you so much to our queens, our queen of hearts, and our queen of just about everything I could think of. And we got to fight for our queen of everything, because, again, history have taught us so much. We have to make sure that we keep them protected in our prayers and just about anything else we can do. Because Panther, I don't know if I could look at those arms sticking out like that for 4 years. I couldn't stand looking at them arms stuck out like that. I mean, when I look at him, my arms get tired. So every time I look at DeSantis, I get like this burning pain in my shoulders because of his arms sticking out. And and then too, let us not forget our other prayers that we need to send out for the Carters. For the Carters, for President Carter, who is in the biggest transition of his life, which of course is leading to the end of his life, but he has bravely decided not to fight the battle anymore. At his side is his longtime companion, his beloved wife, and the rest of his family. So we're going to stay in prayer for them as well, and just about anybody else that we need to pray for. But yeah, they got each other, so that is a big start right there. Let me see. Margarita Taylor is a racist threat left at her home, threatening her and her family. I saw that lunatic walking behind that kid from the Parkland school, harassing him. And I tell you, I forget the kid's name, but I'm so proud of that kid. I forget his name, but he was one of the kids that organized after the Parkland thing. And his family was threatened. And you know, and you know what I love is okay, his family, that kid, Mo Shannon, you know his name, the one I'm so proud of. His family was threatened, right? And I believe his father had worked as a, oh gosh, I believe he had worked as a FBI agent or something like that. So his family is not opposed to firearms, right? And they let people know, don't come for us. Do not come for us, because if you come for us, we're going to come for you. You know, so just because they're against assault rifles and all these rapid fire weapons and something, David Hogg, thank you, David Hogg. All I needed was the first name, David Hogg, with 2 G's. Yeah, but I love the fact that his family just put it out there. Okay, we're opposed to this, but we're not opposed to that. So don't come to our house unannounced, because we'll have a conversation if you want to have one. So, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I'm a very peaceful person, but I told you I can't stand a bully. And sometimes you have to bust somebody's nose. And when you bust somebody's nose, they go back to the rest of the a-hole community, holding their nose and the top of their shirt is all messed up. They go back to the rest of the community and they know that you're not to be messed with. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. So it's not. That's what I'm saying. I like those kind of responses where somebody gives a measured response to an implied threat. I like that. A measured response to an implied threat. Don't come over here. All right? Otherwise, we'll have a conversation you won't forget. All right, you guys. And with that, I am going to go. It is time to cue Ginger Avenger. And our last word of the day is... Panther says, prayers for Dr. Shola and her family. That works for me. Thank you so much, Panther. That is perfect. And okay, one more last word. Enduring and lovely couple, the Carters. Okay, so that and the prayers for Dr. Shola and her family. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. All right, you guys. Thank you. Love you guys. And I will see you guys tomorrow. And it is time to cue Ginger Avenger. Where is Ginge?
Naomi Osaka, Simone Biles, and Meghan Markle said no. They said that they were going to prioritize their own mental health over everything else. And do you know what happened? People dragged them through the mud for not putting the Olympics, the press, the monarchy over their own needs. They were attacked for saying, I need to take care of myself. I need help. This is the typical reaction to when Black women say no, or when Black women set boundaries, when they speak up for themselves, when they say what they want or what they need, or even if they're just venting. The world has been conditioned to believe that Black women can bear the worst and still keep moving. When we do not abide by the expectations of the world, we are immediately punished. It's almost as though we have broken some unspoken social contract, like we are not upholding our end of the bargain, a bargain that we did not agree to. When Black women say no more, they are seen as angry Black women. They are seen as selfish or difficult, considered not a team player, that she's not qualified for whatever job that she's doing or wants to do, that she is seeking attention. When a Black woman says no, she doesn't get the raise or the promotion.